First contact. The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly before the SSV horizon, Earth's most advanced deep space exploration vessel. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display that showed their current position in an uncharted sector of the Andromeda Galaxy. Status report, Lieutenant Chen, Elena called out, her voice steady despite the anticipation building in her chest. Lieutenant Aiden Chen's fingers danced across his console. All systems nominal, Captain. We're maintaining our current trajectory towards the anomaly detected by our long-range scanners. Elena nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. After 5 years of interstellar travel, they were on the verge of a potentially groundbreaking discovery. The anomaly they were investigating defied all known laws of physics, emitting energy signatures unlike anything ever recorded. Dr. Miki, any updates on the nature of the anomaly? Elena asked, turning to the ship's lead scientist. Dr. Zara Mbeki looked up from her station, her brow furrowed in concentration. It's perplexing, Captain. The energy readings are fluctuating in patterns that suggest artificial origin, but on a scale that dwarfs anything in our database. Whatever it is, it's not natural. A hush fell over the bridge as the implications of Dr. Mbeki's words sank in. They might be on the verge of humanity's first contact with an advanced alien civilization. Approaching visual range, Captain, announced Navigator Sarah Takahashi. Putting it on the main viewer now. A holographic display flickered and transformed, revealing a sight that left the entire crew speechless. A massive structure loomed before them, easily the size of Earth's moon. It was an intricate latticework of gleaming metal and pulsing energy fields, forming a spherical shape that seemed to ripple and shift as they watched. "My God," whispered Elena, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's beautiful." As they drew closer, they began to notice details that sent a chill down Elena's spine. Parts of the structure were dark, its once seamless surface marred by what looked like impact craters and scorch marks. "Captain," called out Security Chief Marcus Webb, his voice tense. "I'm detecting multiple smaller objects in the vicinity of the structure. They appear to be ships." Elena's mind raced. Friendly or hostile? Marcus shook his head. Unknown, but they're not moving. Many of them show signs of severe damage. Life signs? Elena asked, dreading the answer. Dr. Mbeki's voice was barely above a whisper. Faint, but present. "Captain, I think we've stumbled upon the aftermath of a battle." Elena took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. This was not how she had imagined first contact, but the situation demanded action. "All right, people, let's do what we came here to do. Dr. Mbeki, assemble your first contact team. Lieutenant Chen, prepare a shuttle for launch. Chief Webb, I want a security detail ready. We're going to offer assistance." As the crew scrambled to carry out her orders, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to step into something far bigger than they had ever anticipated. An hour later, Elena found herself aboard the shuttle, approaching one of the larger damaged ships near the colossal structure. Up close, the alien vessel was a marvel of engineering, its sleek lines and otherworldly materials hinting at technology far beyond humanity's current capabilities. "I'm detecting an atmosphere inside the ship," reported Dr. Mbeki, her eyes glued to her instruments. "It's not too dissimilar from our own. We should be able to breathe without our helmets, but I recommend keeping them on until we can run a full analysis." Elena nodded. "Agreed. Any response to our hails?" Communications Officer Yuki Tanaka shook her head. "Nothing, Captain. But I am picking up some kind of automated distress signal. It's weak, but it's there." "All right," Elena said, her voice firm. "We go in, we assess the situation, and we offer help if we can. Remember your training, people. We're making history here." The shuttle docked with a gentle thud, and Elena led her team into the airlock. As the door hissed open, they found themselves in a dimly lit corridor. The air was thick with the acrid smell of burned circuitry and something else, something alien. They moved cautiously through the ship, their footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. The interior was a mess of tangled wires and broken panels, clear signs of a desperate battle. "Captain," called out Dr. Mbeki, her voice filled with excitement and trepidation. "I'm picking up stronger life signs ahead, multiple individuals." Alina's heart raced. This was it. Remember, we're here as friends. Open hands, open minds. They rounded a corner and found themselves in what appeared to be the ship's bridge. And there, amidst the chaos of damaged consoles and flickering holographic displays, were the ship's occupants. They were roughly humanoid in shape, but that's where the similarities ended. Their skin was a pale blue, textured like fine scales. Instead of hair, they had what looked like sensory tendrils that moved of their own accord. Their eyes, large and multifaceted like those of an insect, regarded the humans with a mixture of fear and hope. One of the aliens, wearing what Alina assumed was a uniform denoting rank, stepped forward. It made a series of clicks and whistles that Alina couldn't begin to comprehend. Dr. Mbeki activated her universal translator, a device that had been programmed with every known language in the Milky Way. It wouldn't be able to translate an entirely new alien language, but it might pick up on patterns or similarities. The alien spoke again, and this time, to everyone's amazement, the translator produced a rough approximation. "Help, please. Attack." Wounded, Alina stepped forward, her hands open in what she hoped was a universal gesture of peace. "We're here to help," she said slowly, giving the translator time to attempt a conversion. "We come as friends." The alien leader seemed to sag with relief. It gestured to its companions, and soon the bridge was a flurry of activity as the aliens brought forward their wounded. Over the next few hours, Alina and her team worked tirelessly alongside the aliens. Dr. Mbeki's medical knowledge, while based on human physiology, proved adaptable enough to provide basic care. The universal translator, while far from perfect, improved with each interaction, allowing for rudimentary communication. They learned that the aliens called themselves the Zarquin, and that they were the caretakers of the massive structure, which they referred to as the Nexus. The Nexus, as far as Alina could gather, was some kind of interstellar transit hub, allowing for near-instantaneous travel across vast distances. But the Zarquin were not alone in the galaxy, and not all species shared their peaceful intentions. They had been attacked by an aggressive race known as the Vexillor, who sought to control the Nexus for their own purposes. As the immediate crisis abated, Alina found herself in what passed for a conference room with the Zarquin leader, whose name translated roughly to Starweaver. "Thank you," Starweaver said, the translator rendering his clicks and whistles into stilted English. "Without your help, many more would have been lost." Alina nodded, feeling a mix of pride and humility. "We're glad we could assist. But I have to ask, what happens now? The Vexillor, will they return?" Starweaver's sensory tendrils writhed in what Alina was beginning to recognize as agitation. "They will. They always do. For centuries, we have guarded the Nexus, keeping it open for all peaceful species to use. But the Vexillor, they see only power to be seized." Alina leaned forward, her mind racing with the implications. Humanity had just taken its first steps into a larger, more complex galaxy than they had ever imagined. And already they were faced with a choice that would shape their species' future. "Starweaver," she said, choosing her words carefully. "I can't speak for my entire species, but I believe that if we were to bring this information back to Earth, to our leaders, we would want to help. The Nexus, the ability to travel instantly across the galaxy. It's beyond anything we've dreamed of. But more than that, the chance to stand alongside new allies, to protect something so vital. That's what humanity aspires to be." Starweaver was silent for a long moment, his alien features unreadable to Alina's human eyes. Then, slowly, he extended a four-fingered hand towards her. "Then perhaps," he said, his translated voice filled with newfound hope, This day marks not just your first contact, but the beginning of a friendship that will shape the stars themselves. Elena took his hand, marveling at the texture of his skin and the weight of the moment. As a representative of humanity, she was forging Earth's first interstellar alliance. "I believe it does," she said, a smile breaking across her face. "And I, for one, can't wait to see what we'll accomplish together." As Elena prepared to return to the horizon to report this monumental encounter to Earth, she knew that the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had found its place among the stars, and the adventure was only beginning. Cultural exchange. The weeks following first contact were a whirlwind of activity aboard the SSV Horizon. Captain Elena Rodriguez found herself at the center of a diplomatic and scientific frenzy as her crew worked tirelessly to establish a foundation for communication and cooperation with the Zarquin. Dr. Zarambiki had barely slept, her excitement palpable as she pored over the data streaming in from their new allies. "Captain," she said, her eyes gleaming with enthusiasm, "the Zarquin database it's incredible. Their understanding of quantum mechanics and spatial folding is centuries beyond our own. The potential applications are staggering." Elena nodded, feeling a mix of pride and trepidation. "That's excellent news, Doctor. But remember, we're not just here for their technology. We need to understand them, their culture, their way of life. That's the key to building a lasting alliance." As if on cue, Lieutenant Aiden Chen's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, the Zarquin delegation is ready to come aboard." "Acknowledged," Elena replied. "I'm on my way to the docking bay." As she made her way through the ship's corridors, Elena couldn't help but marvel at how quickly things had progressed. Earth's governments, after initial shock and skepticism, had rallied behind the idea of an interstellar alliance. The Horizon had been given a new mission: to serve as humanity's first embassy to the stars. The docking bay doors hissed open, revealing a sight that still took Elena's breath away. 3 Zarquins stood waiting, their blue-scaled skin shimmering under the bay's lights. Their sensory tendrils waved gently, an alien expression of what Elena hoped was anticipation rather than anxiety. Starweaver, now familiar to the crew, stepped forward. The universal translator, much improved over the past weeks, rendered his speech with only a slight delay. "Captain Rodriguez," he said, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the lights of the bay, "we are honored to be welcomed aboard your vessel. We bring greetings and hopes for understanding between our peoples." Elena smiled, bowing slightly in the manner she had learned was respectful in Zarquin culture. "The honor is ours, Starweaver. We look forward to learning from each other." As they made their way to the conference room, Elena couldn't help but notice the reactions of her crew. Despite their training, many couldn't help but stare at their alien visitors. It was a stark reminder of the gulf they needed to bridge. In the conference room, Elena introduced the Zarquin to key members of her crew. Dr. Mbiki could barely contain her excitement as she began discussing the finer points of Zarquin science with one of their scientists, a female named Lumina. Security Chief Marcus Webb, always cautious, focused his attention on the 3rd Zarquin, who had been introduced as Vortex, their security expert. "Your defenses against the Vexillor," Marcus began, his voice gruff but respectful. "We'd be interested in learning more about their tactics, their weaknesses." Vortex's tendrils twisted in what Elena was beginning to recognize as a sign of concern. "The Vexillor are formidable," the translator rendered. "Their technology is not as advanced as ours, but they make up for it with numbers and aggression. They seek to control the Nexus, to use it for conquest." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had barely begun to explore its own solar system, and now they were faced with the prospect of an interstellar conflict. Elena cleared her throat, drawing attention back to the matter at hand. "While defense is certainly a concern, we're here today to focus on understanding each other. Starweaver, perhaps you could tell us more about your people, your history." Starweaver's tendrils waved in what Elena hoped was agreement. "Our civilization is ancient by your standards," he began. We achieved spaceflight over 10,000 of your years ago. But it was our discovery of the Nexus that truly shaped our destiny. Over the next few hours, Starweaver wove a tale that left the humans spellbound. The Zarquin, it turned out, hadn't built the Nexus. They had discovered it, an artifact of an even more ancient civilization that had long since vanished from the galaxy. The Zarquin had taken it upon themselves to become its caretakers, using its power to connect with other peaceful races across the stars. But with great power comes great responsibility, Starweaver concluded, his voice tinged with what the translator interpreted as sadness. Not all races we encountered shared our vision of cooperation. Some, like the Vexlor, saw the Nexus as a weapon, a means of conquest. Elena leaned forward, her mind racing with questions. You've faced threats before the Vexlor. Then, how have you managed to protect the Nexus for so long? Lumina, the Zarquin scientist, answered this time. We are not warriors by nature, Captain. Our strength lies in our technology, in our ability to adapt and innovate. We've developed defenses, ways to temporarily disable the Nexus when threatened. But each time, the attacks grow stronger, more desperate. The implications were clear. The Zarquin needed allies, races who could complement their technological prowess with other skills. Races like humanity. As the meeting continued, the conversation shifted to lighter topics. The humans were fascinated to learn about Zarquin art, a form of multidimensional sculpture that defied traditional physics. In turn, the Zarquin were enthralled by human music, their sensory tendrils waving in complex patterns as they listened to a variety of Earth's compositions. It's remarkable, Lumina said, her tendrils still swaying to the lingering notes of a classical piece. You use vibrations in the air to create patterns that evoke emotional responses. We have nothing like this in our culture. Dr. Mbiki, ever the scientist, couldn't resist asking, how do you communicate emotions in your culture then? The question led to a fascinating discussion on Zarquin empathic abilities. Their sensory tendrils, it turned out, could detect and even project emotional states, allowing for a form of communication that went beyond words. Would you be willing to demonstrate? Elena asked, her curiosity piqued. Starweaver hesitated, his tendrils curling inward. It is intimate, by our standards, but in the spirit of understanding, I would be honored. With permission from Elena, Starweaver approached her slowly. He raised a hand, his tendrils gently extending towards her face. Elena fought the instinct to flinch as the alien appendages made contact with her skin. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, suddenly, Elena gasped. A wave of emotion washed over her, not her own, but Starweaver's. She felt his curiosity, his hope for their alliance, but also his deep-seated worry about the future of his people and the Nexus. As Starweaver pulled away, Elena found herself blinking back tears. The experience had been overwhelming, but also deeply moving. She looked at Starweaver with new eyes, understanding him in a way that went beyond words or cultural barriers. Thank you, she said softly. That was incredible. The moment was interrupted by an alert from the bridge. Lieutenant Chen's voice came over the intercom, tense and urgent. Captain, we're detecting multiple ships entering the system. They matched the Zarquin descriptions of Vexlor vessels. The room erupted into activity. Vortex immediately began conferring with Marcus about defense strategies, while Lumina and Dr. Mbiki huddled over a console, analyzing the incoming data. Elena turned to Starweaver, seeing her own concern reflected in his alien eyes. It seems our cultural exchange is about to be cut short, she said grimly. What do you need from us? Starweaver's tendrils writhed with agitation. We must return to the Nexus. Our defenses there are stronger. But he hesitated, his gaze moving over the human crew. We would welcome your assistance, if you are willing to offer it. Elena didn't hesitate. Of course. We're allies now, aren't we? We stand together. As they rushed to prepare for the impending conflict, Elena couldn't help but reflect on how quickly everything had changed. Just weeks ago, humanity had been alone in the universe, taking its first tentative steps into the cosmos. Now, they were about to engage in their first interstellar battle, fighting alongside allies they barely understood to protect a technology they could scarcely comprehend. But as she looked around at her crew working seamlessly with the Zarquin, she felt a surge of pride and hope. Despite their differences, despite the vast gulf of biology and culture that separated them, they had found common ground. They had begun to understand each other, to form bonds of friendship and mutual respect. As the Horizon disengaged from the Zarquin ship and both vessels set course for the Nexus, Alina made her way to the bridge. The view screen showed the massive structure looming ahead, its intricate lattice work now bristling with defensive systems. Beyond it, barely visible pinpricks of light marked the approaching Vexillor fleet. "All hands to battle stations," Alina ordered, her voice calm and steady despite the tension coursing through her. "Let's show our new friends what humanity can do." As the crew rushed to their positions, Alina exchanged a look with Starweaver, who had insisted on remaining on the Horizon's bridge. No words were needed. Human and Zarquin, they faced the coming storm together, united in their determination to protect the wonders they had only begun to explore. The cultural exchange had taken an unexpected turn, but in facing adversity together, perhaps the strongest bonds of all would be forged. As the first shots of the battle lit up the darkness of space, Alina allowed herself a small smile. Whatever the outcome, humanity had found its place among the stars, and they would face the future, challenges and all, alongside their new allies. Technological collaboration. The space around the Nexus erupted into chaos as the Vexillor fleet engaged the combined Zarquin and human defenses. The SSV Horizon shuddered under the impact of enemy fire, its shields flaring brilliantly against the void of space. On the bridge, Captain Alina Rodriguez gripped her command chair, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. "Status report," she barked. Lieutenant Chen's fingers flew over his console. "Shields holding at 78%, Captain. Zarquin vessels are forming a defensive perimeter around the Nexus. The Vexillor are pushing hard, but we're holding. For now." Alina nodded grimly. The Horizon's weapons, advanced as they were by Earth standards, seemed woefully inadequate against the Vexillor's superior numbers and technology. But they weren't without advantages. "Dr. Mbiki," Alina called out, "what's the status on that integration you were working on with Lumina?" Dr. Zara Mbiki's voice came through the comms, tense but excited. "We're close, Captain. The Zarquin quantum entanglement technology it's beyond anything we've ever seen. If we can successfully integrate it with our targeting systems, we might be able to predict Vexillor movements before they happen." "Make it happen, Doctor. We're counting on you." As the battle raged on, Alina couldn't help but marvel at how quickly her crew had adapted to working alongside the Zarquin. In the heat of combat, the differences between their species seemed to fade away, replaced by a shared determination to protect the Nexus and each other. Starweaver, still on the Horizon's bridge, moved to Alina's side. His multifaceted eyes reflected the flashes of weapons fire visible through the view screen. "Your people fight with great courage," he said, his translator conveying a mix of admiration and concern. "But the Vexillor are relentless. They will not stop until the Nexus is theirs or they are defeated." Alina nodded, her jaw set with determination. "Then we'll just have to make sure it's the latter. We didn't come all this way to back down now." Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. Security Chief Marcus Webb's voice cut through the chaos. "Captain, we've got boarders. Vexillor troops have somehow teleported aboard. They're heading for the engine room." Alina's mind raced. This was bad. If the Vexillor took control of the Horizon's engines, they could use the ship as a battering ram against the Nexus' defenses. "Chief Webb, take a team and hold them off." "Starweaver, is there anything your people can do to prevent more boarders?" Starweaver's tendrils writhed with agitation. We have defensive screens that normally prevent such incursions. The Vexillor must have developed new technology to bypass them." "Then we adapt," Alina said firmly. Get me Lumina and Dr. Mbeki. We need to pool our knowledge, and we need to do it now. Minutes later, Alina found herself in a hastily convened meeting in the ship's science lab. Dr. Mbeki and Lumina were hunched over a holographic display, their differences forgotten as they worked feverishly to combine their technologies. The problem, Dr. Mbeki explained, her words tumbling out rapidly, is that our systems are fundamentally incompatible. The Zarquin operate on principles of quantum entanglement that we barely understand. Lumina's tendrils waved in what Alina had come to recognize as frustration. And your linear computing systems are primitive by our standards. No offense intended. None taken, Alina said, fighting back a wry smile despite the dire situation. But we don't have time for a complete overhaul. We need a solution now. What if we think outside the box? Is there a way to use our differences as an advantage? Dr. Mbeki's eyes lit up. Actually, that might be brilliant, Captain. Lumina, what if we use the very incompatibility of our systems as a weapon? Lumina's tendrils perked up, a sign of interest. Explain. As Dr. Mbeki outlined her idea, Alina felt a surge of hope. It was audacious, borderline insane, but it just might work. They would use the Horizon's primitive systems as a Trojan horse, hiding Zarquin quantum algorithms within. When the Vexillor attempted to hack or teleport through their defenses, they'd trigger a cascade of quantum entanglement that would disrupt their systems. It's a long shot, Dr. Mbeki admitted. We've never attempted anything like this before. Neither have we, Lumina added, her tendrils waving with what Alina hoped was excitement rather than nervousness. Then we'll be making history together, Alina said. How long do you need? The two scientists exchanged glances. An hour, they said in unison. Alina nodded grimly. You've got 30 minutes. Make it count. As she returned to the bridge, Alina was greeted by the sight of barely controlled chaos. The Vexillor boarders had been repelled, but at a cost. Several crew members were injured, and parts of the ship had taken damage in the firefight. Status report, she called out, sliding into her command chair. Lieutenant Chen looked up from his console, his face streaked with sweat and grime. We're holding, Captain, but barely. The Zarquin ships are taking heavy damage. If we don't turn this around soon. He didn't need to finish the sentence. Alina could see the situation deteriorating on the tactical display. The Vexillor were slowly but surely pushing through their defenses, inching closer to the Nexus with each passing minute. All right, people, listen up, Alina said, her voice cutting through the tension on the bridge. Dr. Mbeki and Lumina are working on a solution, but until then, we need to buy them time. I want every ounce of power we can spare diverted to shields and weapons. We're going to give the Vexillor a fight they'll never forget. For the next 20 minutes, the battle raged with renewed intensity. The Horizon danced through space, its human crew working in perfect synchronization with their Zarquin allies. They may have been outgunned, but they made up for it with sheer determination and ingenuity. Just when it seemed they couldn't hold out any longer, Dr. Mbeki's voice crackled over the comms. Captain, we're ready. Alina didn't hesitate. Do it. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, suddenly, the tactical display lit up like a Christmas tree. Vexillor ships began to drift, their weapons falling silent. Teleportation attempts fizzled out mid-transport. It's working, Starweaver exclaimed, his tendrils waving with unbridled excitement. Their systems are in chaos. Alina allowed herself a fierce grin. Then let's press our advantage. All ships, focus fire on the Vexillor flagship. Let's end this now. The next few minutes were a blur of coordinated attacks. The combined human and Zarquin fleet, their systems now seamlessly integrated thanks to Dr. Mbeki and Lumina's work, moved as one. The Vexillor, their technological advantage neutralized, found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. When the Vexillor flagship finally erupted in a spectacular explosion, a cheer went up across the Horizon's bridge. The remaining enemy ships, leaderless and outgunned, began to retreat. As the adrenaline of battle faded, Alina found herself slumping in her chair, the weight of what they'd accomplished settling over her. They had done it. Humans and Zarquin, working together, had defeated a threat that neither could have overcome alone. In the aftermath of the battle, as repair crews worked to patch up the damaged ships and tend to the wounded, Alina found herself in a quiet moment with Starweaver and Dr. Mbeki. "What you've accomplished here," Starweaver said, his tendrils moving in gentle waves that Alina had come to associate with awe. "It's unprecedented. In all our years as caretakers of the Nexus, we've never seen two species collaborate so effectively in so short a time." Dr. Mbeki beamed with pride. "It's just the beginning, I think. The potential applications of this combined technology, it's staggering. We could revolutionize everything from communication to energy production." Alina nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and trepidation. It's a big responsibility. This kind of technology in the wrong hands. "Which is why," Starweaver interjected, "we would like to propose a more formal alliance between our peoples, a sharing of knowledge, of culture, of technology. Together, we could be a force for peace and progress in the galaxy." The implications of Starweaver's words weren't lost on Alina. This went far beyond her authority as a starship captain. This was the stuff of history books, of watershed moments that changed the course of civilization. "I'll need to consult with my superiors back on Earth," Alina said carefully. "But speaking personally, I think it's an incredible opportunity. One that we'd be fools to pass up." As if on cue, Lieutenant Chen's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. It's the Secretary General of the United Nations." Alina exchanged glances with Starweaver and Dr. Mbeki. It seemed Earth's leaders had been following the situation more closely than they'd realized. "Put it through to my ready room," Alina replied. "Starweaver, Dr. Mbeki, I think you should join me for this." As they made their way to the captain's ready room, Alina felt the weight of the moment settling on her shoulders. The decisions made in the next few hours would shape the future of not just humanity, but potentially the entire galaxy. But as she looked at Starweaver, this alien being who had become an ally and a friend, and at Dr. Mbeki, whose brilliance had helped bridge the gap between their species, Alina felt a surge of optimism. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, human and Zarquin alike. The door to her ready room slid open, revealing the holographic image of the UN Secretary General waiting within. Alina took a deep breath, straightened her uniform, and stepped forward into a new era of interstellar cooperation. "Madam Secretary General," she began, her voice steady and clear, "I have someone I'd like you to meet." Interstellar diplomacy. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Nexus buzzed with an energy Captain Alina Rodriguez had never experienced before. Representatives from a dozen different species filled the room, their diverse forms a testament to the sheer variety of life in the galaxy. Some floated in anti-gravity fields, others slithered across the floor, while still others towered over the rest, their heads nearly brushing the vaulted ceiling. Alina stood at the center of it all, flanked by Starweaver and Dr. Zora Mbeki. As the hero of the Battle of the Nexus and the face of humanity's first extraterrestrial alliance, she had been chosen to represent Earth at this unprecedented gathering. "I still can't believe we're here," Dr. Mbeki whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. "A year ago, we thought we were alone in the universe. Now look at us." Alina nodded, feeling a mix of pride and trepidation. The last few months had been a whirlwind of diplomatic meetings, technological exchanges, and cultural introductions. The defeat of the Vexlor had sent shockwaves through the galactic community, drawing the attention of species that had long kept to themselves. "Representatives," Starweaver's voice echoed through the hall, instantly quieting the diverse crowd. "We are gathered here today to discuss a matter of utmost importance. The recent events surrounding the Nexus have demonstrated that isolation is no longer a viable strategy for any of our species. The galaxy is changing, and we must change with it. As Starweaver continued his opening remarks, Alina couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come. The alliance between humans and Zarquin had proven to be just the beginning. In the wake of the Vexillor's defeat, other races had come forward, eager to share in the benefits of cooperation. The Aurelians, a gaseous species that communicated through complex pheromones, had offered revolutionary insights into atmospheric terraforming. The crystalline Zillar had shared advancements in energy production that promised to solve Earth's power needs for centuries to come. Even the reclusive Noor, a race of energy beings, had emerged from their self-imposed exile to offer guidance on matters of galactic spirituality and ethics. But with these new alliances came new challenges. Not every species viewed the emerging coalition with favor. The Krill Imperium, a militant race that had long viewed the galaxy as their rightful conquest, saw the alliance as a threat to their ambitions. The Volith Syndicate, an interstellar criminal organization, feared that increased cooperation between species would disrupt their illicit trade networks. As Starweaver concluded his speech, a representative of the Krill Imperium rose to speak. Admiral Zexkar, his exoskeleton gleaming under the hall's lights, fixed Elena with a gaze that sent chills down her spine. The Krill Imperium views this coalition with great concern. Zexkar's translator rendered his clicking speech. For millennia, the natural order of the galaxy has been clear. The strong rule, the weak serve. This alliance upsets that balance. Elena felt her jaw clench, but she forced herself to remain calm. This was diplomacy, not combat. Words were her weapons now. With all due respect, Admiral, she began, her voice steady. The recent conflict with the Vexillor proved that even the strongest can fall when faced with a united opposition. The galaxy is vast, with resources beyond measure. There is room for all of us to thrive without resorting to conquest or subjugation. A murmur of approval rippled through the assembly. Elena saw nods of agreement from several representatives, including the imposing form of Gravna, the Zillar ambassador. But Zexkar was not so easily swayed. Pretty words, human. But words do not change the fundamental nature of the universe. The Krill Imperium has stood for thousands of your years. We will not be lectured on galactic order by a species that has barely left its own solar system. Before Elena could respond, another voice joined the fray. Sindra, the representative of the Volith Syndicate, rose from her seat. Her form was fluid, constantly shifting like quicksilver. The Syndicate shares the Imperium's concerns. Sindra's melodious voice filled the hall. This alliance threatens to disrupt established trade routes and economic structures. How do you propose to address these complications? Elena exchanged a glance with Starweaver. They had anticipated resistance, but the combined opposition of the Krill Imperium and the Volith Syndicate was a formidable challenge. Trade and commerce are the lifeblood of any thriving civilization. Elena began carefully. Our alliance does not seek to disrupt existing economic structures, but to enhance them. With improved technology and increased cooperation, we can open new trade routes, explore untapped resources, and create opportunities that benefit all species. Dr. Mbiki stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overriding her nervousness. Moreover, the technological advancements we've already achieved through collaboration are just the beginning. Imagine what we could accomplish if we all worked together. Cures for diseases that have plagued our species for generations, solutions to environmental challenges, breakthroughs in faster-than-light travel. Her words seemed to strike a chord with many in the assembly. Even Sindra looked thoughtful, her fluid form rippling with what Elena hoped was interest. But Admiral Zexkar remained unmoved. Cooperation, innovation. These are the words of the week. The Krill Imperium has no need of such things. We take what we need, as is our right. The tension in the room was palpable. Elena could see several representatives shifting uneasily, clearly torn between the promise of the alliance and the threat of Krill aggression. It was Gravna, the Zillar ambassador, who broke the silence. His crystalline form chimed softly as he spoke, the translator rendering his harmonic language into words. For eons, the Zilar observed the conflicts of the galaxy from afar, believing that isolation was the path to peace. But in joining this alliance, we have discovered something remarkable. There is strength in diversity, power in unity. The Krill Imperium speaks of taking, but what of creating? What wonders might we build together that no single species could achieve alone? Elena felt a surge of gratitude towards the Zilar ambassador. His words seemed to resonate with many in the assembly, including some of the previously hesitant representatives. Seizing the moment, Starweaver stepped forward. What we propose is not the end of individual cultures or governance, but a framework for cooperation, a galactic council where all species have a voice, where conflicts can be resolved through diplomacy rather than warfare, where the benefits of scientific and cultural exchange can be shared by all. The assembly erupted into discussion, representatives conferring with each other in a cacophony of languages. Elena watched as alliances shifted, opinions changed, and the future of the galaxy hung in the balance. After what seemed like hours, a consensus began to emerge. Species after species pledged their support for the proposed Galactic Council. Even Sindra, seeing the potential economic benefits, cautiously agreed to bring the Volith Syndicate into the fold. Only the Krill Imperium remained opposed. Admiral Zexkar, his exoskeleton bristling with barely contained rage, rose to his full height. The Imperium rejects this council, and all it stands for, he declared. We will not be bound by the decisions of lesser species. Know this, any encroachment on Krill territory or interests will be met with the full might of our fleets. With that, Zexkar stormed out of the assembly hall, leaving a wake of uneasy silence. As the remaining representatives began to discuss the practicalities of forming the council, Elena found herself pulled aside by Starweaver and Dr. Mbeki. Well, Dr. Mbeki said, her voice a mix of excitement and apprehension. I'd say that went interestingly. Starweaver's tendrils waved in what Elena had come to recognize as a sign of deep thought. The Krill Imperium's opposition is troubling, but not unexpected. We must be prepared for conflict, even as we strive for peace. Elena nodded grimly. We've made enemies today, but we've also made powerful friends. Whatever the Krill throw at us, we'll face it together. As they rejoined the main assembly, Elena couldn't help but feel the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. They had achieved something remarkable today, the birth of a true galactic community. But with it came new challenges, new threats, and the knowledge that the decisions made in this hall would shape the destiny of countless worlds. The next few hours were a blur of negotiations, compromises, and historic agreements. By the time the assembly adjourned, the framework for the Galactic Cooperative Council had been established. Elena found herself named as one of Earth's permanent representatives, a role she accepted with a mix of pride and trepidation. As the various ambassadors began to depart, Elena took a moment to stand at one of the Nexus's vast viewing windows. The structure's massive arms stretched out into space, connecting distant sectors of the galaxy. Ships of various designs moved between them, a testament to the diversity and potential of their new alliance. Quite a view, isn't it? Dr. Mbeki said, joining her at the window. I never imagined I'd see anything like this in my lifetime. Elena smiled, though her eyes remained fixed on the stars beyond. It's beautiful and terrifying. We're part of something so much bigger than ourselves now. The decisions we make here won't just affect Earth, but countless worlds across the galaxy. True, Starweaver added, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the starlight. But that is the price of progress, of hope. What we have begun here today may be the dawn of a new era of peace and prosperity for all species. As Elena watched a sleek Aurelian ship dock with one of the Nexus's arms, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. Yes, there were challenges ahead. The Krill Imperium's threat loomed large, and there were undoubtedly other dangers lurking in the vast unknown of the galaxy. But for the first time, They wouldn't face these challenges alone. "Well," Elena said, straightening her uniform, "we've got a lot of work ahead of us. A galactic council to build, treaties to negotiate, and a hostile empire to keep in check. Just another day at the office, right?" Dr. Mbeki laughed, the sound brightening the moment. "Just another day of making history, you mean?" As they turned to leave, ready to dive into the complexities of their new roles, Elena took one last look at the star-filled expanse beyond the window. Whatever the future held, humanity had found its place among the stars. And together with their new allies, they would face that future head-on. A new frontier. The bridge of the ISV Unity hummed with activity as the ship prepared for its historic launch. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood at the center, her experienced eyes scanning the various stations where human and alien crew members worked side by side. "Status report," she called out, her voice steady despite the excitement coursing through her. Lieutenant Aiden Chen, now sporting the uniform of the Galactic Cooperative Council's exploratory fleet, responded promptly. "All systems go, Captain. Zarquin quantum drives are online and synchronized with our conventional engines. Xylar crystal matrix is at full power. Aurelian atmospheric regulators are functioning perfectly." Elena nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. The ISV Unity was a marvel of multi-species engineering, the first of its kind. It represented everything the newly formed Galactic Cooperative Council stood for: unity, progress, and the pursuit of knowledge. Dr. Zara Mbiki's voice came over the comms. "Science Division ready, Captain. Our newer colleagues are, well, I'm not entirely sure what they're doing, but they assure me it's vital to our mission." Elena chuckled. Even after months of working together, the energy-based Noor remained something of an enigma. But their insights into the fundamental forces of the universe had already revolutionized their understanding of space-time. "Very good, Doctor. Starweaver, how are we looking on the diplomatic front?" The Zarquin, now serving as the ship's first officer and chief diplomat, turned all 5 of his eyes towards Elena. "All participating species have reaffirmed their commitment to the mission, Captain. Even the Volith Syndicate has pledged non-interference, though I suggest we remain cautious in their claimed territories." Elena nodded grimly. The Volith Syndicate's integration into the Galactic Cooperative Council had been smoother than expected, but centuries of mistrust weren't easily overcome. "And the Krill Imperium?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. Starweaver's tendrils writhed in what Elena had learned was a sign of frustration, still refusing all communication. "Our long-range scans show increased activity along their borders, but no direct threats, yet." "Understood. We'll deal with that bridge when we come to it." Elena took a deep breath, then opened a ship-wide channel. "Attention all hands, this is the captain speaking. In a few moments, we'll be embarking on a journey unprecedented in the history of any of our species. Our mission is to explore the uncharted regions beyond the Nexus's current reach, to seek out new life and new civilizations, and to expand our understanding of this vast universe we call home." She paused, looking around at the diverse crew: humans, Zarquin, Xylar, Aurelians, and even a contingent of Noor, their energy forms contained in specially designed suits. Each brought unique skills and perspectives to the mission. "We carry with us the hopes and dreams of countless beings across the galaxy. But more than that, we carry the spirit of cooperation and mutual understanding that has brought us this far. Whatever challenges we face out there, we'll face them together. Unity out." As cheers erupted across the ship, Elena nodded to Lieutenant Chen. "Take us out, Lieutenant. Nice and easy." The ISV Unity glided smoothly out of its docking bay in the Nexus. As they cleared the massive structure, the full expanse of unexplored space opened up before them. "Zarquin quantum drives engage," reported the helmsman, a young Aurelian named Zephyr. "Preparing for our first jump." Elena felt a tingle of anticipation. The Zarquin quantum drive technology, combined with discoveries made by the Noor, promised to take them further than any expedition had gone before. They were about to step into truly unknown territory. "Execute jump," Elena commanded. For a moment, reality seemed to bend around them. Elena felt a sensation like being stretched and compressed simultaneously. Then, with a flash of light, the familiar stars disappeared, replaced by an entirely new stellar landscape. "Jump successful," Zephyr announced, a note of awe in her voice. "We've traveled approximately 500,000 light years in a single jump." A hush fell over the bridge as the implications sank in. They had just crossed a distance that would have taken conventional ships millions of years to traverse. Dr. Mbiki's excited voice broke the silence. "Captain, you need to see this. Putting it on the main viewer now." The view screen flickered to life, revealing a sight that took Elena's breath away. A massive structure floated in space before them, dwarfing even the Nexus. It appeared to be a network of interconnected rings, each easily the size of a small planet. Energy pulses flowed between the rings in mesmerizing patterns. "Is it artificial?" Elena asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Undoubtedly," replied Gravna, the Zeller scientist. "But the level of technology required to build something on this scale, it's beyond anything we've ever encountered." Starweaver's tendrils waved in excitement. "Captain, we're detecting energy signatures similar to the Nexus, but exponentially more powerful. This could be the source, the origin point of the Nexus technology." Elena's mind raced with the implications. Had they stumbled upon the homeworld of the mysterious precursors, the ancient race that had built the Nexus and then vanished? Or was this something else entirely, something even older and more profound? "Scan for any signs of life or active technology," Elena ordered, "and hail them on all frequencies. Let's not make any assumptions." For several tense minutes, they waited as the Unity's advanced sensors probed the massive structure. Finally, Lieutenant Chen spoke up. "Captain, we're not detecting any life signs, at least none that we can recognize. But there's something else. The structure appears to be reacting to our presence. Energy levels are increasing across all rings." As if on cue, a beam of energy shot out from the central ring, enveloping the Unity in a soft, golden light. Alarms blared across the bridge. "Report," Elena called out, fighting to keep the worry from her voice. "Shields are holding," Zephyr responded. "We're not detecting any hostile intent. It's more like it's scanning us." Dr. Mbiki's voice came over the comms, filled with a mix of excitement and trepidation. "Captain, the Noor are, well, they're going crazy down here. They say the energy field is trying to communicate with us, but on a level we can barely comprehend." Before Elena could respond, the view screen flickered. The image of the ring structure was replaced by a swirling vortex of colors and shapes that seemed to defy the laws of physics. As the crew watched in awe, the chaotic display began to coalesce into recognizable forms. They saw flashes of strange, alien worlds, glimpses of civilizations rising and falling across ends, the birth and death of stars, the collision of galaxies, the very fabric of space-time twisting and reshaping itself. And through it all, a sense of something vast and ancient, a consciousness so far beyond their own that trying to comprehend it was like an amoeba trying to understand a human. When the display finally faded, leaving the bridge in stunned silence, Elena realized she had been holding her breath. She let it out slowly, trying to process what they had just witnessed. Did everyone see that?" she asked, her voice shaky. Nods and murmurs of affirmation came from around the bridge. Even Starweaver, usually unflappable, seemed shaken. "Captain," Dr. Mbiki's voice came over the comms, filled with awe. "The Noor say that was just the surface, a fraction of what the entity was trying to convey. They're still processing most of it, but they believe we've made contact with the combined consciousness of the precursors." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. The precursors? But I thought they had vanished eons ago. "Not vanished," came a new voice, startling everyone on the bridge. A figure had appeared in the center of the room, shimmering and translucent. It kept shifting, sometimes appearing humanoid, sometimes Zarquin, sometimes in forms utterly alien. Transcended. Elena stepped forward, her heart pounding. "Who? What are you?" The figure seemed to smile, though it was hard to tell given its constantly shifting form. "We are what you call the precursors, though that name is as limited as your understanding of us. We have watched your alliance form, seen your species take their first tentative steps into the greater galaxy. And now, you have found us. But why?" Elena asked. "Why reveal yourselves now? Why build the Nexus and then disappear?" The being's form rippled, as if considering how best to explain complex concepts to a child. The Nexus was a test and a gift, a means for younger races to connect, to grow, to learn. We withdrew to allow you to develop on your own, to see what choices you would make. Starweaver moved to stand beside Elena. "And have we passed your test?" The being's form shifted again, this time resembling the Zarquin, though with an otherworldly glow. "There is no pass or fail, young one. Only choices and consequences. Your alliance, your cooperation in the face of adversity, your quest for knowledge. These are promising signs, but you have much yet to learn." Elena felt a mix of pride and humility wash over her. "What happens now? What do you want from us?" "Want?" The being seemed amused. "We want nothing from you, but we offer you a choice. You stand on the threshold of a new era. With the knowledge we can share, your civilizations could leap forward by millennia. But such advancement comes with great responsibility and great danger." The being's form shifted again, this time taking on aspects of all the species represented on the Unity's crew. "We offer you the chance to join us, to transcend your current forms and become part of something greater than you can imagine. Or you may choose to return to your homes, to continue your development at your own pace. The choice must be unanimous among all your peoples." Elena exchanged glances with her crew, seeing her own mix of excitement and trepidation reflected in their eyes, or equivalent sensory organs. This was far beyond the scope of their mission, beyond anything they had ever imagined. "We will need time," Elena said finally, "to discuss, to understand, to reach out to our governments." The being nodded, its form stabilizing into something vaguely humanoid. "Time is one thing we have in abundance. We will wait. When you are ready, when all your peoples have made their choice, return here. The future of your civilizations, and perhaps of this galaxy, rests in your hands." With that, the being vanished, leaving the bridge of the Unity in stunned silence. Elena looked around at her crew. Human, Zarquin, Zolar, Aurelian, Nor, each processing what they had just experienced in their own way. They had set out to explore new frontiers, to expand their understanding of the universe. Instead, they found themselves faced with a decision that would shape the destiny of all their species. "Well," Elena said, a wry smile crossing her face, "I think we're going to need a bigger council meeting." As the Unity prepared to return to the Nexus, to relay their astonishing discovery to the Galactic Cooperative Council, Elena gazed out at the massive ring structure. Whatever choice they ultimately made, she knew that nothing would ever be the same. They had found not just a new frontier, but a gateway to a future beyond their wildest dreams. The journey that had begun with a chance encounter between humans and Zarquin had led them to the threshold of cosmic transcendence. And as the stars streaked by on their return journey, Elena realized that in many ways, their true adventure was only just beginning.